Hello, gladiators. Welcome to something different. I recently read a book, and I simply have to talk about it. This is the new video I was telling you guys that I was working on. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to be rating all of the new humans from the book All Tomorrows. Now, All Tomorrows is a book that takes place over a billion years and shows the evolution of humanity. It gets bad. Let's get started. So, we're going to start out with the first new humans to pop up, and that would be the Martians. They are a species who have developed a couple hundred years while living on Mars. They kind of started or were enticed to start a civil war with the original human planet. There's not really too much different about them, so I'm going to go ahead and rate them a 3 out of 10. Now we have the Star People. Humanity 2, Electric Boogaloo. They were born by genetic engineering and eugenics after the Civil War so that the two human populations would have no reason to fight. 6 out of 10. I like their leaf pelts. Now, here's the thing where everything goes wrong. These are aliens called the QU. They're big bug aliens. They have a penchant for genetic transmutation and creating monsters out of animals. Overall, very rude, unrated because they are not humans or human adjacent. Now we have the worms. These are the first that are introduced in the book. They are roughly about an arm length. They just, dig through the earth looking for snacks. Sometimes they encounter one another, and, it's really just a toss up on whether they're like, ah, yes, another of my species, or, ah, yes, another snack. 2 out of 10, I'm scared of demonetization because of how they look, but that doesn't matter. I don't get monetized anyway. Next, we have the Titans. These are elephantine-like creatures. Do you notice that mustache there that goes all the way to the ground? Yeah, that's just a modified lower lip. They retained much of their human sentience, but after an ice age on the planet that they were born at, they just kind of went extinct. Pachyderm vibes, very good. I like them very much. 10 out of 10. Now we have the Predators. Endurance hunting is out. It is now time for the Fast and the Furious. They did keep some of their human-like intelligence. They did pretty good. Apex Predator. Next we have the Prey. These are absolute fodder. The book didn't even bother describing them except for saying they had kind of bird-like hips. That's about it. The only reason they're not 1 out of 10 is because they did, environmental niche. The Mantelopes, they were very smart and were kept as record keepers by the Q. By the way, almost all of these species were just the Q playing around and just being like, man, wouldn't it be crazy if we did this? Sometimes they were useful to the Q hive mind, sometimes they weren't, and they were just like, hey, look what we can do. But these are the Mantelopes. Like I said, very smart, were kept as record keepers, but unfortunately, they were so smart and they understood the history that they kept that they kind of just, how to say, smart mantelopes were sad mantelopes. And once the queue stopped, butting their heads in and eventually left, all of these guys went either they lost all of their intelligence so that they wouldn't be depressed and would have a better chance to survive, or different populations just died out. They chose happiness, so good for them. The swimmers, they're shark dolphins. That's about it. 10 out of 10. Shark dolphins. What's not to love? Next are the lizard herders. They are friend shaped. They helped the herps, and they're just general, keeping track of their livestock and having a good old time doing with it. 7 out of 10. Able, left to thrive without Cain. These are the tempters. Now, that big one you see on the left is the female of the species. They kind of just take root and use pheromones and vocal calls to control a legion of simps. The very few times that they ever have daughters, they just make their legion of simps go plant her somewhere else. They could have been one of the greats. They were very smart and were able to build a functional society, but they got murked by a comet. These are the Bone Crushers. They were carrion feasters. They feasted on dead bodies. Very ogre-like. They were about 3 meters tall and not all that smart. 6 out of 10, thermodynamics was not their friend. When you eat things that are already dead, uh, eventually populations start to wane out, apparently. I don't know how vultures have done it, I'm not going to ask. These are the colonials. This is where it really started getting bad for me. These are flesh carpets. During the war against the Q, that happened for about 3 battles on the best equipped human planet, which was this one. They were just turned into flesh carpets. Their role in Q society was waste management, and they were allowed to keep human sentience so that they knew that, yes, this is your life. Horrifying. 4 out of 10 because they fought the power. The Flyers, they had very economic or very efficient hearts, so much so that they were able to justify the energy cost of having big brain and of flight. Uh, but they haven't done that yet. 8 out of 10. I too would like to fly. These are the hand flappers. These are flyers that did not have good hearts, so they evolved to not need to fly anymore. The only bad thing about that is when they did that, their hand wings aren't good at being hands or wings now. So they just kind of mating dance, just kind of flag language all over the place. Dance their way into oblivion. 10 out of 10 legends. These are the blind folk. They tried to hide underground when the Q started invading. They were found very easily. And unfortunately, after they were transmogrified into what you see before you, they just had underground settlements, and from that were tectonic shifted out of existence as tectonic plates just slowly crushed them in. 9 out of 10. Good rats. These are the lopsiders. Gone are the days of bilateral symmetry. They lived on a planet that had, I believe, 36 times the gravity of Earth, so they didn't really have the chance to get to stand up. I don't like that hand. Any of the four. I don't like any of them. These are the Striders. They were very tall, very peaceful creatures. They grew up on a moon that had 1/5 of Earth gravity, and I believe it said that they grew to be about, I think it was either 10 feet or 10 stories tall. Either way, very tall. Now, they did get absolutely murked by evolved poultry. Eventually, uh, just environmental pressures made the livestock that used to roam the world evolve into predators, and these guys did not stand a chance. They were very tall and very fragile. 9 out of 10. Too pure for this world. These are the parasites. These are actually the punishment for a different species of humans that rebelled against the Q once. They've got disgusting hog face. I'm not a fan of them. 4 out of 10 mooches. These are the fingerfishers. Man, beach, hook, hand, eat fish. That's all you really need to know about them. Pescatarian. 7 out of 10. I can't explain it. I just appreciate the vibe. These are the hedonists. They are here for a good time and a long time. On their world, it is almost just a pure garden. There are no predators. Enough food for everybody to, not worry about it. He makes me think of the Sandman, at least in this depiction. Neil Gaiman, if you're watching this, I love your work. I just recently read Coraline as well. 8 out of 10. They just live their lives frolicking, feeding, and fundamentally loving life. Insectophagi. They are just looking for grubs. I'm reminded of Timon from Lion King. If it was the nightmare version, the one where, you took a DMT trip and watched Lion King. 4 out of 10, squid head, snake tongue. Don't like them. These are the spacers. These are the humans that successfully hid from the Q. Basically, they hollowed out asteroids, sealed them back up again after getting all the water and air that they would need. They move through space using bowel power, as you might be able to guess. Gas expelled from bottom end. 8 out of 10, they could have been cooler, but the bowel thing. These are the Ruin Haunters. They give me Squidward vibes. Imagine giving a toddler access to nuclear codes. On the planet that they were allowed to inhabit, they still had roughly human intelligence, but they were also kind of insane. Um, Surprisingly, they did not turn their planet to glass. 6 out of 10. Sentience is back, baby! After a very trying time for all such species I have previously indicated, some of the species got back to human-like intelligence and grew beyond. Let's take a look at those, shall we? These are the snake people. They are descendants of the worms. They are very agoraphobic. Their cities are very tightly wound and very, what would be for us, claustrophobic. But for them, it was just how they built their society. They've got a pelvic foot hand, which is crazy. 8 out of 10. They probably had snake jazz. These are the killer folk. These are descendants of the predators. They said, man, hunting is fun and all, but what about, agriculture and science? And what if we didn't have a very volatile society where we just, kind of wanted to attack each other all day? What if we didn't do that? They still have that killer instinct, but they curbed their enthusiasm. 7 out of 10, I like his hat. These are the tool breeders, descendants of the swimmers. They couldn't make or use tools or fire efficiently underwater, so they just domesticated animals into being their tools and fire. They modified some creatures to essentially pump nutrients through this network that acted as a power grid, which gave nutrients to creatures that had bioluminescence that would be able to light up houses. I think they domesticated a squid through several years to be able to be a TV with their chromatophores, which is crazy. 1 out of 10. I miss the dolphin sharks of old. These are the SAUROSAPIENTS, descendants of lizard herders. So technically, the lizards are the sentient one, not the people, but they inherited human-like intelligence, so 9 out of 10. Honorary inclusion. These are the modular people. These are the descendants of the colonials. Every organ and limb is a different creature. That is wild. I don't like them. The TERRESTRIALS. These are descendants of the Flyers. They are what every libertarian wishes they could be. There is no such thing as borders or countries in the Flyer Society. They live fast. They live about. They get to maturity at about 2 years old. Are senile and not senile when they hit 16. They are in their prime at about 16 years old, and they die at 23. 8 out of 10. Burn bright and fast because you don't last. Way to go, Flyers. Oh, by the way, if they get probably about one vacation in their life, they have to spend it well. The asymmetric people, descendants of the lopsiders. So they got off of the high gravity planet and modified themselves through eugenics and genetic engineering. And they absolutely wiped out the lopsiders of old and just kind of took their place as the next step. Yes, those legs are modified toes. 4 out of 10. They did what they could with what they had to work with. I still don't like them. The symbiotes. These are descendants of the parasites. They turned their hosts into biological tools. Imagine if your car and wardrobe were sentient, and every time you wanted to go to work, you just put on your work body. Yeah, so that's what they did. 5 out of 10. They could have done much worse. These are the sail people, descendants of the finger fishers. They traded hook fingers for sick fin wings. They had nomadic civil wars where they gently skated across their world's ocean and had beef with each other until they were like, man, let's stop. 6 out of 10, I mean, they're okay. No real feelings toward them. These are the Satyriacs, descendants of the hedonists. Once geologic and volcanic activity started disrupting the perfect garden world of the hedonists, they had to evolve quickly. The ones that were able to do this successfully became dinosaur-like, Like I said, volcanic activity forced them to move on up in the world. 8 out of 10. Still delightfully promiscuous. You know, every once in a while they'll just host big orgies. It's crazy. These are the bug facers, descendants of the insectophagi. They ended up having a pretty normal civilization, but got in contact with unnamed aliens and became deeply xenophobic after that. 7 out of 10. For some reason, this picture here reminds me of just a royal vizier. These are the... Okay, actually, before we get into the rest of this, I should probably go ahead and all of these people that I have shown you before, up until the insectophagi, they all became a roughly coexistent galactic empire where they traded information and technology relatively freely. The insectophagi were not included in this, and they did not wish to be. So we'll continue on because that'll be important in a moment. These are the ASTEROMORPHS. These are the descendants of the spacers. They went hard on increasing their intelligence through eugenics and creating experiments where they said, man, let's create the smartest babies all the time, millions of years. So they have almost godlike intelligence now, but they never really interact with anything on physical planets themselves. They just let everybody else have their fun. And now we get on to the good time ruiners. These are the GRAVITAL. These are descendants of the ruin haunters. They had a deranged need for progress and limitless access to ancient and powerful technology they did not have the wisdom to wield carefully. They achieved the singularity with computer intelligence, and they molded their minds into giant machines and built what is called the Machine Empire. 4 out of 10 imperialistic organic hating spheres. I don't like them. The Gravitals then went on to destroy nearly all, at least human descendant organic life. The war crimes that the Q did pale in comparison. Uh, Not only did the Gravitals genetically engineer and rebuild and restructure uh, organic tissue for fun, they also decided, and if we just don't like you, we're just gonna genocide. So, didn't like them. Eventually, they started. Some of them started having philosophical ideas that maybe we shouldn't be dicks to flesh creatures, even if they aren't machines like us. And eventually, that idea kind of spread out and created cracks in the societal infrastructure of the Gravitals. But all those smart Gravitals up at the top went, man, you know what really helps bring unity? Warring against a different species. We're gonna try and deflect all the failures that we have by going to war. Asteromorphs Part 2. They destroyed the Machine Empire after a couple million year long war. It is absolutely crazy how long this war went on for. But eventually they did destroy the Machine Empire, cleaned up all the mistakes that their once cousins had wrought upon the galaxy. 8 out of 10, almost omniscient and omnipotent, but they're starting to become more and more Q-like, which I'm not a fan of. And finally, the Terrestrials. These are what I would consider lesser asteromorphs. They were the middle management of the asteromorph empire. They became overseers of their new worlds. Sometimes they ended up building cults to themselves out of the people they were trying to, you know, guide into the future, but uh, never really abused them. So, okay. 4 out of 10, they are spider babies, and I don't like it. The book continues on for a little bit after that for the general conclusion and remaining thoughts of the archaeologist who has discovered all of the fossils of all of these creatures. After 1 billion years, all descendants of humanity are dead. I would highly encourage everyone to go read this book. It is called All Tomorrows by CM. I had his name ready. Let me pull this up real quick on my own extra tab so that everybody can find it on their own. Okay, maybe it doesn't have it here. But All Tomorrows, it is easily findable if you just Google All Tomorrows. I woke up today at 6 a.m. and I built this entire presentation in about 3 hours, and this is my first take doing this. I think I'll leave it as is, because this was fun, and I have been on a sleep-deprived extravaganza of just recovery. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be back to Bioshock content tomorrow. Like I said, I hope you'll enjoy. Read the book. It does have finer details that I left out. And I hope you guys have a good night.